Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the final word with your boy MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network for our Thursday night, January 2nd, 2025, last show of the week edition. That's right. We've made it through another week, and you've also landed smack dab on episode 50 of the final word. Wow. So a triumph of such here in the early part of 2025 as we get to our 50th episode of our nightly show. Here's to the first 50, and here's to the next 150. That's what I'm going to call it. And it's great to be back here tonight on this Thursday. As I said, a lot more to talk about than we had last night on a very quiet January 1st. But tonight, sports are back in town, and it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that we can kind of talk about something fresh. We're going to get into your day in Philadelphia sports history. We're also going to get into a little college football playoff update. We do have a semifinal matchup now. The final four have been determined in college football in the bracketed up 12. It's down to 4. The Sugar Bowl was played today after the delay yesterday, and it was not as classic as the game yesterday, the Peach Bowl, but it was a good game. We'll get into some of that. We got some hot stove updates because there's been some moves that we haven't talked about. Update everybody on the latest and greatest in the hot stove world. We're going to talk a little bit about the Eagles. Again, earlier today on the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, we went over the game, and it's hard to talk about this game. It really is, because this game absolutely means nothing, and the only storyline in this game really is the Saquon Barkley drama and whether or not he's going to play, and it seems like he's not. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Eagles, but we talked earlier on the Birds Blast, so go ahead and check that out if you didn't check it out earlier. The World Junior Championships roll on in Ottawa. We have semifinals. We have quarterfinal action today. We'll talk about some of that as well. And the Flyers will be in action later tonight in Vegas at about 10 o'clock. And we got you covered here on the postgame on the Clear the Ice program. So make sure you're coming back for that around midnight. So, again, a busy night on the program, or a busy night on the network. And we'll do our of the night segment and our card review as well. Only 42 days till pitchers and catchers report. Please circle that date on your calendar, February 12th, as we're getting closer and closer every day to the start of the 2025 spring training and absolutely Major League Baseball. And if you're really keeping track at home, we have 6 weeks until college baseball starts. College baseball will start on February 14th. So if February 12th is 42 days away, then 44 days from now will be the start of the college baseball season. So, again, the holidays are over, and I know that's a source of depression for some people. Today is the first day of the non-holiday period, and hopefully the news that baseball will begin in 44 days. 42 days, but 44 days if you're a college baseball fan, and 42 days if you're a Major League Baseball fan should hopefully get you through your depression. And I really mean that, because it definitely helps me, especially in a day like today where I'm camped out at. We've had snow all day. So, thinking about the warm things of spring and summer, but baseball sure helps me through these moments as well. So we will get into some of that as well. Again, hot stove update, and we have a lot to get into tonight and a lot to talk about. So let's not waste any more time, and let's get started on your day in Philadelphia sports history. January 2nd, 2 events that I want to go over, 2 events that kind of piqued my interest on this day in history. In 2005, right? On this day, the Eagles decided to rest all their starters in a 38-10 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this was the 2005 season. This was the 13-3 year. This was the Super Bowl 39 appearance season. This was the first time that the Eagles ever achieved a 13-win season in the 16-game schedule that they ever had. And I know there's been some talk about the Nick Sirianni and his 13 games. Now he's won 13 games twice in his 4 years here in Philadelphia. But I just kind of wanted to remind people that the Eagles are not immune to winning 13 games. They did it back in this season, back in 2004. And on this day, they rested their players. They could have been 14-2 if they decided to go ahead and try to win that game, but there was no need to. They had the number 1 seed locked up. They rested their players and finished the season at 13-3. Also, on this day in 2015, about 10 years later, Chip Kelly, remember him? was granted full control of the Philadelphia Eagles. Jeff Lurie essentially signed over the franchise on this day in 2015 to Chip Kelly, ushering in the friggin' Howie Roseman era. So, the source of my problems began on this day back in 2015 when Chip Kelly was granted full control over the Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, we all know the story of what happened. The full control lasted for one season as he completely ran the organization into the ground in 2015, made very suspect trades, and the Nick Foles deal, the LaShawn McCoy deal, and yes, and Howie, as Barbara's chiming in right now, and Howie went into the closet on this day back in 2015, only to emerge later, about a year later, and start all my problems from that point forward. So, happy Chip Kelly gets full control day for all you sadists out there that remember that. I remember very vividly. And I remember that tumultuous offseason, a terrible offseason. The Eagles were coming off of the 13 and 14 seasons where Chip Kelly led them to back-to-back 10-win seasons. They made the playoffs both those years, but they lost in both playoffs. But I guess that was enough for Jeff Lurie to say, you know what? I'm going to turn the team over to you, Chip. And we all saw what happened after that. And of course, it set in the motion. Now, it also set in the motion the Super Bowl 52 win. So, there are some positives that came from that. But I've been trapped in Howie hell since then. So, happy Chip Kelly Day. But, yeah, there you go. Those are your multiple days in Philadelphia Eagle history as we are celebrating our on this January 2nd, trying to find some positives in a very, I guess, again, the post holiday seasons is always kind of depressing, right? And I hope that everybody is okay. I hope people are hanging in there, and I hope everyone's enjoying it. And we're going to get into some sports. Let's talk some college football. That's a topic I don't typically talk about on this program, but it's because I just, just like with the Eagles, I'm not necessarily out, but it's hard to get excited when my team, the Penn State Nittany Lions, can't seem to ever win the big game. But yesterday, they did that, or on New Year's Eve, they did that. They have now cashed their ticket to the Orange Bowl in the semifinals. Today, the Sugar Bowl, which was finally played between Notre Dame and Notre Dame and goddamn Georgia. Jesus Christ. Notre Dame pretty much had their way with Georgia, setting up an Orange Bowl battle between Penn State and Notre Dame. And boy, could I not be more excited about that. For all you young heads out there, you don't remember back in the day when both Penn State and Notre Dame were independents, they would play each other pretty much every year. Matter of fact, there was a span of time between 81 and 92 that they played each other once a year. Now, lifetime, Penn State is 9-7-1 against Notre Dame, including a Gator Bowl victory back in the 70s. So they faced Notre Dame in one bowl game in their history, and they beat them, and now they're going to go up against them in the Orange Bowl next Thursday night in the college football semis, with a chance to go to the national championship game, and yet another chance for James Franklin to redeem himself that he can indeed win the big game. Now, on the other semifinal matchup is between Ohio State and Texas. Now, that is going to be a fired up, explosive, offensive show. And I really am going to be watching that game because I am hoping to God that when the dust clears, we have Penn State, Ohio State for the national championship. Because if James Franklin wants an opportunity to put to bed all his doubters and all his haters, this is the chance. If they have an opportunity to play Ohio State in the national championship game and beat Ohio State, all will be forgiven. I know I'll forgive them for everything. All will be forgiven for not being able to beat Ohio State every year. All will be forgiven. And you know what? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is what we've been having to wait for, an opportunity to play Ohio State when everything was on the line. So college football playoff is in full swing. A tumultuous week, of course, with the tragedy in New Orleans yesterday. Finally, they got the game underway today. It was a very interesting game. I don't know if Penn State or Ohio, if Notre Dame matches up against Penn. Who's going to cover Tyler Warren? Notre Dame likes to play a lot of man. Do they have anybody on that team that's going to be able to man cover that dude? I mean, this kid, number 44 for the Penn State Nittany Lions, tight end. If you're listening, Howie Roseman, we need a tight end. I would not be against drafting him in the first round next year. He should be there mid round when the Eagles are actually back end of the first round. I think he should be there. I'm not looking at many teams in the first round that are clamoring for a tight end. I think he'd be there, and I think the Eagles have a shot at him. And I would definitely be on board with the Eagles going ahead and drafting a tight end in the first round, especially that kid. But can Notre Dame cover him? That's going to be the story. Can Notre Dame cover Tyler Warner one-on-one or Warren one-on-one, because they like to play man-to-man? But do they have linebackers on that team that can do it? Or do they flex a safety down to try to contain him? So Drew Allard and the rest of the Nittany Lions are going to have their hands full too. It's going to be a good game next week in the Orange Bowl, and I'm looking forward to it immensely. Barbara, she just watched the Notre Dame game. Yeah. Oh, no, Barbara, don't tell me you're an Irish fan. Please don't tell me that. The Mayor of Mayfair, what's up, MattyB? Happy New Year to you too, Pat. I hope all is well with you. Yes, and as I said, Chip did put Howie in the closet. Ryan Day was on Chip Kelly's staff. Now, isn't Chip Kelly on Ryan Day's staff? Isn't Chip Kelly the offensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes, as far as I know? And then Barbara saying, don't hate me because I'm Notre Dame. Barbara, I'm not going to hate you over it, but come on, man. Notre Dame. Is it that Philadelphia thing? I talked about it last night on the show. I talked about Philadelphia and the Philadelphia sports fan conundrum when it comes to college football. I think we all in this city would gravitate, if we could, to Temple, but we can't, because Temple has been terrible for over 100 years. I mean, there's been 2 periods of Temple football in my lifetime that they've been any good, and that was back in the mid-'80s for about 2 years with Paul Palmer, and back in the 2010s with P.J. Walker, right? That was the only 2 times that I remember Temple being good. And matter of fact, yesterday's day in Philadelphia sports history was Temple's Sugar Bowl loss to Tulane back in 1935. I mean, that, you know, and that was Pop Warner, who I never knew coached Temple, but Pop Warner apparently coached Temple back in the 30s. But I think our problems when it comes to Philadelphia sports fans and college football gravitates or is really centered with the futility of Temple. And now we have to look outside the city, and majority of us go towards Penn State. And also, then the other half go towards Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame because of the Catholic thing, you know, and I'll give you the credit. They got cool gold helmets. And if the movie Rudy is correct, did they really dip those helmets in real gold? I mean, that's pretty badass. But I understand why they do it. I understand it. But I went Penn State at a very early age. I've always been a fan of Penn State, even through all the nonsense with Sandusky and Paterno at the end there. I stayed with Penn State. And I'll stay with them to the very bitter end. Matter of fact, I have fond memories of the Sugar Bowl win against Georgia in '82 and of the Fiesta Bowl win against Miami in '87. I watched both of those games live, and they were some of the fondest memories. And when they won the national championships that year, I felt like it was a Super Bowl. Now, granted, it was also because of the problems with our pro team too, when we weren't getting any winning. I mean, Penn State was dominant back in my childhood. They were dominant in the '80s. They were constantly in contention for a national championship. And then in '94, when they got cheated out by Nebraska and the Writers, you know, which was terrible, they should have won the national championship back in '94 as well with Kerry Collins and Kajana Carter and that group. So, and then if you were LeVar Arrington in the late '90s, I mean, Penn State has been really good for a really long period of time. And I guess that helps galvanize you to a team. Notre Dame has kind of ebbed and flowed. You know, they've had their time and they also had their time. So, and Temple has never had their time. Twice in my lifetime has Temple football been any damn good. And again, in the mid '80s and in the 2010s, and that's way too far apart from each other to consistently stay with the program. And I honestly believe they'd be better off. One, they got to find their own stadium. Temple's got to start by getting their own damn football stadium. And two, they got to go to Division II. If they really want to get back, and then maybe work their way back to Division I, they're just not going to cut it, man. They're just not going to cut it. But no, Barbara, I am not mad at you because you like Notre Dame. The city of Philadelphia is split down the middle when it comes to Penn State, Notre Dame. Honestly, you should hate Ohio State because they are Big Ten rival. I do hate Ohio State, but I also grew up hating Notre Dame. Again, a reference to the show from last night. I have always equated Notre Dame like the Dallas Cowboys, like the New York Yankees, like those teams. That I've always thought of Notre Dame in the ilk of those teams. I've never, ever, ever liked Notre Dame, and I don't know why. Maybe it's my anti-everybody else type sentiments and the way I live my life. I don't know, but I've always had a very anti-Notre Dame thing, and it was just as bad as I hate the Cowboys. Is how much I hate Notre Dame. I'm sorry, and I'm Catholic, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I cannot stand Notre Dame. I hate it. Xavier Watson, All-American safety. Well, okay, that's fine, but don't forget, Penn State also has wide receivers and Drew Allard has the ability to beat you deep. So it's going to create a conundrum. What Notre Dame is going to try to do with Tyler Warren, and it's an X factor that Penn State will probably try to obviously exploit. And I don't know if Notre Dame will be able to completely shut him down. I think it's a matter of just trying to mitigate the damage when it comes to him. But real deal. And I'm telling you, if he is there in the first round, the Eagles need to get him. Al Golden is the defensive coordinator of Notre Dame. Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. Yep. And I used to like Kerry Collins on Penn State. Yeah, that was the Kajana Carter years, man. Penn State, Kerry Collins, Kajana Carter. Kerry Collins had a drinking problem. Yeah, that was all good times, man. It's good times. But Penn State will be faced off against Notre Dame, 9-7-1 historically. The Nittany Lions against the Fighting Irish. Never have met in the Orange Bowl. They've only met in one bowl, and that was in 76 in the Gator Bowl, and Penn State won it. Penn State, the last time they played them was in 2009, and Penn State beat them. So this is a renewance, again, for you older heads out there who remember those days back in the 80s, back during the years of independence when Penn State and Notre Dame both were independently, didn't have a conference. They would play each other every year, and it was the marquee game of the year for Penn State. I know that, and we look forward to it. And Penn State's had their way, and this is huge for Franklin. Huge. I know he's not getting fired, and I understand that. But if there was ever a time where he should think all setting up for him right now, all the letdown, all the coming up short in big games has led him to this point now, right? He lost the Big Ten title game to Oregon. Okay. They come back and they stomp all over SMU, which was not really much of a game. Then they were dominant and they pulled away against what the hell did they just play? Boise State. Now we got a national powerhouse. Now we got a nationally known franchise, organization, team, whatever, school. This is another opportunity for James Franklin to repair his image and repair his reputation. And beating Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl will almost get him back to where he needs to be. And if things set up national championship game, and it's Penn State versus Ohio State in the national championship game, Big Ten versus Big Ten, and James Franklin can somehow find a way to pull that one off, all will be forgiven, and James Franklin will never get fired from Penn State. He'll work the rest of his life there because he would have rectified all of it. And I know Penn State fans are thinking ahead, and I know you can't do that, but boy, would that not be a great way to end the college football season? The first year of the college football playoff, a national championship. That would be absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. It should be a great game. I'm sure the college playoffs people are happy. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I do watch college football throughout the season. I do. I just don't talk about it much because of the Penn State thing. And Penn State, obviously, every year it comes down to one game. It's always Ohio. Sit here and comment on how Penn State did against Akron. I'm not going to sit here and bring up how Penn State dominated Youngstown. I'm not going to talk about the back and forth match between the Pitt Panthers. I'm not going to get into all that. It's always about Ohio State. And it's always at that Halloween time. There is nothing better. If you've never been to Happy Valley for a whiteout on Halloween weekend against Ohio State, I suggest you go. And I don't care if you're a Penn State fan. I don't care if you're an Ohio State fan, but to go to Happy Valley, Beaver Stadium, Halloween weekend, Penn State, Ohio State, whiteout. There ain't nothing like it. There ain't absolutely nothing like it. And to be a young man, and unfortunately, I was later on in my life when I was married and had kids, so I didn't really feel the full effect. But I highly recommend take the trip out. And I know this year the game did not fall on Halloween weekend. It was before or after, right after. And next year they'll be in Columbus, so they won't be back to Happy Valley until 2026. But I highly recommend if you only go to one college football game in your entire life, it's Penn State, Ohio State, Happy Valley at Halloween for a whiteout. You will not. It's just a complete day of just fun. And Jason Kelsey be damned. So please head out to Happy Valley if you want. I highly recommend it. Yes, Freddie, I am a Penn State fan. But as I was just kind of ranting on about, I don't talk about it because I'm not going to talk about it until they beat Ohio State. Once they get past Ohio State, if they ever do during the regular season, then yes, I would sit here and talk about Penn State and how it all lines up for them. But they never do. And so I don't talk about it because it always comes down to Ohio State every single year. If they beat Ohio State, then we have a pathway to a national championship. If we don't beat Ohio State, we don't. Now, that's, of course, before this season and the 12-team playoff. Now you have a pathway if you lose to Ohio State. It doesn't really matter. But now we have an opportunity, Freddie. An opportunity is right in front of us to rectify beat friggin' Notre Dame. Not only listen to this. We collect 3 trophies on the way. Get the Fiesta Bowl trophy, you pick up the Orange Bowl trophy, and then you pick up the national championship. 3 trophies along the way. And you attach them to some sort of like funky chain and wear them around your neck at the parade back in Happy Valley. You know, that's what you should do, James Franklin. Attach those trophies, all 3 of them, the national championship, the Fiesta Bowl, and the Orange Bowl trophy, to a chain and wear them on the float as you go down campus there at the Happy Valley. So, but yeah, no, if they can find a way to beat Notre Dame, and I think they can, I'm more confident Penn State can beat Notre Dame than I am they can beat Oregon or Ohio State, to be honest with you. That Oregon or Ohio State or Texas, I'm more confident they can beat Notre Dame. But what I saw Arizona State do to Texas yesterday, that was maybe the best college football game I've ever watched in my entire life. And when I watched that game and what I saw Arizona State do to them, there's a pathway to beat Texas. And I just think we're due to beat Ohio State. And if we can face Ohio State in the national championship, I may go out to Happy Valley and watch the game. I don't know. I may take a ride out there and watch the game because that would be great. Just looking forward to it. The college playoff has not disappointed. So yes, Freddie, to answer your question, I am a Penn State. We are Penn State. I've been to Beaver Stadium. It's cold and windy even in November. It's awesome though. It's awesome, Barbara. Have you ever been to a whiteout against Ohio State? Because you won't feel no pain. I promise you that. Is Drew Allard better than Hurts? Yes, 100%. No, of course not. No, Drew Allard is a 3rd round draft pick, maybe 5th round draft pick. I don't even think Drew Allard's better than Trace McSorley. I thought Trace McSorley was probably the best Penn State quarterback they've had in the last 20 years, honestly. But Drew Allard, he's not mobile enough for me. No. I'm not going to say that. Jalen Hurts is better than Drew Allard. Absolutely. 100% better, in my opinion. I'm not going to go there, Barbara. I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts guy, but come on. That would be ridiculous for me to say that. But But there you go. College football playoff, Penn State, Notre Dame, man. And then Texas versus Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. So the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl. Orange Bowl is next Thursday, and the Cotton Bowl, I believe, is next Friday. Is that when the Cotton Bowl is? Next Friday? LOL. Yeah. No, listen, Barbara, I can't. I can't sit here. Do you think he is? Do you think Drew Allard's better than Jalen Hurts? I mean, honestly, come on. We got to keep it grounded in reality just a little bit. Drew coming back one more year can make himself first. Yes, I think so too. I mean, I think he's smart to come back one more year. Obviously, with Cam Ward and Sanders this year, which this quarterback class in 2025 is dreadful. Ugh, man, it's dreadful. So I don't know. I mean, you got to look at it like this, right? Arch Manning's not till what? He's not coming out till probably 26, 27, right? Probably not. He's going to – so he's redshirted, right, last year. So technically he's a freshman this year, and he's going to sit behind Eloise this year and next year. So he won't start until his junior year in 27, his junior year of eligibility. So he'll probably play 27, 28, come out. So, yeah, so he's not part of the immediate future, but Drew Allard should stick around for another year in Penn State. I think, and I believe he's already said he is, right? He hasn't committed to coming out. So that's the smart thing for him to do. But give me that goddamn tight end, man. I want that tight end. If Howie Roseman, I tell you what, here's an edict, and please hold me to this. If Howie Roseman doesn't get fired at the end of the season, which he's not, unfortunately, if he gets Tyler Warren in the first round or at any point in the draft, I don't care if it's in the second, he won't. I don't know if he'll be there in the second round. But if he can get Tyler Warren for the Eagles, I will forgive Howie Roseman for everything, and I will back off Howie Roseman. I will back the hell off. Personally, you won't hear a peep out of me about Howie Roseman again until he does get fired. I promise you that. I'm making that promise right now that if he can get me Tyler Warren in the first or at any point in the 2025 NFL draft, I will back the hell off Howie Roseman. That's my promise to you right now. Please, and I really mean that. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, college football, NFL games are great. Yeah. And I believe tonight the Gator Bowl is happening right now, right? So there are college football bowl games happening still. I think that might be the final one, though, right? Is it the last of the non-playoff games, the Gator Bowl tonight? So college football, talking about college football in full swing on November 2nd or January 2nd is outstanding. Penn State's in the semis against Notre Dame, and Texas will face Ohio State in the other semifinal game on, I believe, next Friday in the Cotton Bowl. So hot times are coming in college football. So, all right. So as far as let's stay on the football thing, Eagles. Again, earlier today, me and Kyle Quinn had a very good conversation about this week's game against the Giants. And the only really important thing about this game, which of course is whether or not Saquon Barkley for the record. And Kyle Quinn mysteriously is on the same side as I am. And this is what I've been a thing all year long with me and Kyle that's scared the hell out of me. Me and Kyle have been doing this type of show for 5 years now. This is the 5th year of a pregame type show that me and Kyle have been doing together. And we've never been linked up ever. We're always on opposite sides of the fence, as you might expect. But this year, for a lot of our takes have mirrored each other. We're both not Jalen Hurts people. We're both we both have concerns about certain aspects of this team. And Kyle has returned from the land of the homers and is actually speaking like a mature adult. And maybe his time at WIP is starting to rub off on him a little bit. And, he's starting to mature and round into a well, intelligent young man. And I kudos to Kyle for that. But anyway, I'm not going to give him any more credit because we'll be arguing next about something. The conversation about Saquon Barkley and starting or even playing at all on Sunday against the Giants, he supports it. He thinks it should be done. And I agree. I think the Eagles are stupid to let this opportunity go away. They're stupid. What happens, God forbid, if the Eagles do not win a Super Bowl? Think about that. And I asked that question to Kyle, and I said, isn't it like a double punch to the groin if they don't win a Super Bowl? If they sit Barkley, they let the record go, and they go out and they don't win a Super Bowl. I mean, would that sort of kind of turn the screws a little bit on maybe firing of Nick Sirianni or firing of Howie Roseman because of such mismanagement on both the situations? Why would you do that? I get the injury factor. I get all that, but you really can't live your life like that, right? And I don't think 101 yards is something that Saquon against the New York Giants. I think it's over in the first half. Honestly, dude, you feed the ball to him, just hand it off to him every time until he gets 101 yards. Who cares about anything else? Keep the starters in on the offensive line or the interior of the offensive line, like the three of them or 4 starters in the interior part of the offensive line and Saquon, and run them until he gets the record, and then take everybody the hell out. Why would you do that? Why would you not give him a chance? He's earned it. 2,005 yards, and he's right there. If he were not to get it, if he were to let it go and they don't play him, he would come out on like 9th on the all-time rushing single season list right now, like 9th place. So an afterthought. This would be an afterthought of Saquon Barkley's career. This would not, no one would remember this. This would go down with Chris Johnson's record-breaking season, or some of the other names on this thing, Amon Green or Chris Johnson. It would go down on with those people. Why not give him a shot? He's got immortality at his fingertips. And yeah, we don't win many championships here. And don't get mad at me for making that statement. That's just true reality. We don't win championships a lot here. Wouldn't it be nice to have this? Wouldn't it be nice to have this record? The last record stood for 40 years. It ain't going to matter. I'll be dead when someone else comes along and wins the next one. God damn, is that true? Yeah, I'll be in my 90s. Jeez Louise. Anyway. Give the man a shot. He's earned it. And I said to Kyle, and I know we have 3 days till we get to game time. And a lot can happen in 3 days. A lot can change. People's minds can change, right? Things can go differently. But what happened? What would you do if it was a Rudy type thing? And I asked him about this. I said, the members of the offensive line go into Nick Sirianni's desk and put their jerseys down or whatever and say, I'm not, or I'm playing, coach, or, is it something like that has to happen? Does the team have to galvanize together and try to fight for Saquon Barkley to get the record? He wants it. He wants to get the record. Don't listen to the hype. I get it. He's a team guy and he's team first and he wants to win a Super Bowl. We all want to win a Super Bowl. No one's questioning that. His wanting to get that record has nothing to do with his commitment to winning a Super Bowl. But he has an opportunity to cement his legacy in his career, which I don't think gets him into the Hall of Fame, even if he does get the record. I think he has to have a couple more of these type seasons. Why not, man? Give him a shot. It's not fair. It's not fair. And if it backfires and he doesn't play and they don't win the Super Bowl, what is the repercussion of that? Does that get Nick Sirianni fired? Right? Is that enough to get him out of here? Is that enough to get Howie out of here? Because I guarantee you Howie Roseman's got a lot about this too. And that's unfortunate. So me and Kyle came out on the same side of the coin about letting Saquon Barkley go for the record and give him his best shot. Matty, I saw SAS say that Barkley is playing Sunday. He's such a nut. Oh, is that true? Who said that? Because I am not tracking that. But that would be great. Last I had heard, he said he wasn't. They were going to rest. See, there's another thing. Nick Sirianni never said he wasn't playing. He just said that certain starters were going to rest. And yes, he said Barkley was one of those players, but he wasn't going to play. He just said he was going to rest. So I hope he plays, and I hope he gets the record. I really do. And for all you injury people out there who are all like, well, he's going to get, tore up. Listen, injuries happen everywhere, but you can't live your life that way. He's gone through the entire season with no issues. Give him a shot, man. He deserves it. He earned it. Penn State has a better chance than the Eagles. Maybe they're definitely closer right now. Only 2 more wins. Yes, Penn State definitely has a better chance than the Eagles. Absolutely, Barbara. Absolutely. Put down a shilling on Penn State to win the whole thing. I endorse that. Absolutely. And Barbara says, hashtag winning is the thing. Yeah, it is. Winning is the thing. But Barbara, I'm telling you, God forbid, and yes, let the homers jump all over me for this one. God forbid if the Eagles don't win a Super Bowl this year and they don't let Barkley go for the record. Where are the Nick Sirianni supporters then? I'm just saying. But then again, of course, he goes out there on the first snap. He goes left. His knee goes right. Tears his ACL. You can blame me. There you go. Blame me. Blame me for that if that happens. But I 100% endorse Saquon Barkley going for the all-time rushing record against and call Eric Dickerson. Get him out here. Get his ass to Citizen Bank or Lincoln. Yeah, get him to Citizen Bank Park. Put him in the other stadium. Let him sit and watch on the big board. But yeah, get him out here, man. Get Eric Dickerson. Sit him next to Mike Trout and let them watch the game together as Saquon Barkley beats his record. So here's hashtag let Saquon play. There you go. There's my new one. Hashtag let Saquon play. So there we go. So there's my Eagles take. And then don't forget, for those of you who are dying for more Eagle coverage, well, we got it here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Immediately following the Eagle-Giants game, Sal G will have you for the Birds Flyby, our post-game show here on the network. As he'll break this game down and hopefully be breaking down a Saquon Barkley single-season rushing record and getting you ready for the playoffs, which will begin next week. And who knows, maybe it's the Commanders, maybe it's the Packers, and we'll go from there. But make sure you're back for more continuing Eagle coverage here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Matty, do you really think Sirianni actually made the decision? I don't. No, that's another good point too, Barbara. I agree with you. What decisions does Sirianni actually make? And again, I would go back to my day in Philadelphia sports history. The day that Chip Kelly assumed complete control of the Eagles was on this day, which set into motion all this nonsense, right? Set all this into motion. So, all right, Howie, throw me a bone, man. Let him play. Let them play. God damn it. Let them play. But make sure you're checking back here for continuing Eagle coverage and college football playoff coverage as we get through into the semifinals. And there you have my little graphic there. Penn State, Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. There it is. Look at that, man. That's why they pay me the big money here on the network to graphically design stuff like that. That's right. I'm getting better, man. Getting better. So there you have Penn State, Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. All right, let's transition now to the ice because we got a lot of hockey. We got some hockey coming up, folks. 10 o'clock tonight, Flyers and Knights out there in Vegas and Sin City. Flyers looking to continue to get the good times rolling against San Jose they had the other night. And maybe we get a win. Sam Erson's been listed as officially his day-to-day with with that groin problem that dogged him. Do you guys remember the history of Sam Erson, correct? Through his younger days, prior to coming up with the Flyers, when he first started out in the AHL level, he had an issue with his groin that required surgery. Then he had about 2 seasons of complete, pain-free, and to include last year. And then now all of a sudden this year, he's having the same issue. Now, I don't know if it's the same issue. They're classifying it as a lower body injury, and that could be a lot of things, but more than likely, he's probably re-aggravated that groin that required surgery a couple years ago. So that would make sense with the whole suspicious notion of why they kept Fedotov up on the active roster. And John Tortorella was transparent enough when Erson was first reactivated back off the IL by saying, listen, we're going to keep Fedotov on the active roster because we got to see about Sam and his durability. And obviously, the coach knows better than I do, even though I was crying and complaining about why is Fedotov sitting around not playing and what have you. So now it means something is now Fedotov will probably be in uniform tonight, as Erson will not, as far as I know. And I think Kovasov's getting a start. So we'll see who's backing him up. It'll more than likely be Fedotov tonight, as Erson is day-to-day. But the Flyers are going to come out and finish up the West Coast swing of this road trip before completing the road trip completely out there in Toronto on Sunday. So we'll see how all that works out. But the Flyers have an opportunity, And oh my God, you're excited, love. I am. I'm always excited. I'm always excited. Once a go against a groin injury, it takes. Yeah, it does. And as I said, this injury required a surgery a couple of years ago, but he's had at least 2 years of pain-free issues, and now this year it's kind of popped back up again. So I'm not saying that's what the problem is, Barbara, but I'm also not saying that that is what the problem is too, or that's not what the problem is. So we'll wait and see. But the Flyers do have a shot tonight against a perennial Stanley Cup contender to kind of build on some of the early the success they had against friggin' San Jose, which again I take it for what it is. I'm not getting all excited. I'm not going to get pissed off when they lose 8-1. But it would be nice to see them kind of compete tonight, and it would be nice to see them kind of win. They've been scoring goals. They've been getting goals. They've been they're up over 3 goals a game now on the season. They're starting to get kind of rolling offensively a little bit. Their goaltending and their defense has been, or the defense has been coming along. The goaltending has obviously been the problem. Urson provided a lot of stability when he came back. Finally, but now that's going to end. So we're going to see how the Flyers can react to this, but that's all part of the rebuild and whatnot. But so tonight, 10 o'clock, they will face off against the Golden Knights out in Vegas. And then immediately following the game, be back here. So because Sal has got you. That's right. Sal will take you tonight on the Clear the Ice around midnight-ish or at the completion of the Flyers game. I am off West Coast duty for the rest of the year, man. I'm done. I took him through Western Canada, and I took them through the majority of the Southern California, or all the California. I'm giving up the mantle for Vegas. I'm taking a break. I'm coming off the post game, but I'll be back on Sunday against Toronto. So I deserve the break. Sal will have you tonight, as he will do the best he can for you. Why isn't the Flyers game on TV or on in ESPN Plus? Are you saying it's not on neither one? I don't even care anymore about local. I always gravitate to ESPN Plus, Barbara. Where's my phone? I'll tell you exactly where the game is tonight. It also might be on TNT. Let's see. Barbara asked a question. I got to answer it. So let's pull it up. Yeah, it's on ESPN Plus, Barbara. And it's on NBC. It is. It's listed as it's on. So 10 o'clock is the start time for the Flyers and Knights tonight from Vegas. Be there or be square, and then be back here immediately following. Yep, 10 p.m. start. Be back here immediately following the game for the Clear the Ice program. Now on the amateur scene in the WJC, the World Junior Championships, we're in the quarterfinal round. Team USA is just amazing me this tournament. 7-2 winners today over the Swiss. They are now into the semifinals. They will await the final round of Latvia versus Canada tomorrow. I believe that's who they'll face, the winner of in the semis on Saturday. The finals will be on Sunday. I will be on ground in Ottawa, I promise you, tomorrow night. That is my target date. But the problem is, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the lake region of Lake Ontario, which covers pretty much where I am situated currently in central New York, and into Ottawa, Ontario, that area, is getting hammered right now with a series of squalls that's going to be that's supposed to last through Sunday. And in the wake of those squalls, and unfortunately with lake effect snow, you can't really tell or gauge how much it's going to be, but they're saying upwards, when it's over with, it could be over 60 inches of snow by Sunday. I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to have to kind of like sneak through the snowflakes in order to get up there. I'm about 3 hours away from Ottawa, where I sit currently. And I'm still debating on how it's going to roll. If I cannot get up to Ottawa, and if I decide that the weather is just too bad to go, then we will broadcast and we'll continue the coverage from here, and it'll just be a wasted opportunity. But next year, the WJC will be in Minnesota, so I'll have another shot next year to go if I can't make it. But that's the plan. The plan is still to go to Ottawa, but I'm not going to risk my life to do it. And but so Team USA, who was of course the defending gold medalists from last year, have a legit shot. Honestly, they have more than a legit shot to get back to the finals and defend their gold, which I didn't think was possible this year. I thought the Americans coming into this tournament were probably the 5th best team. but they have not played that way. They've been playing possessed. James Haggins, 2 goals today. Again, we talked about him last night. Your consensus, or I shouldn't say consensus, but the majority out there think he's the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. He had 2 more goals, up to 6 goals now for the tournament for him. And they're getting great goaltending from Augustine. They're getting great play from Leonard. They're just getting great play all around, and they're dominating their opponents. Of course, they dominated the Canadians the other night, 4-1. Tonight, they just blew the Swiss out. So the Canadians the Americans have a real good shot at defending successfully their gold medal, and we'll wait and see, as tomorrow the quarterfinals will end and the semis will start on Saturday, I believe. So a lot more coming up with that with the WJC. They usually block it off, but I'll definitely try. When I checked the national hockey games in the National Network, I thought of you. Well, thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that. But there you go. There's my WJC check-in. Hockey is definitely it's been a great week when it comes to that stuff. And I dig the World Juniors now. The next IIHF tournament will be in May for the men's, not the juniors, but the World Championships, which are typically your NHL players like Connor Bedard. He can still play in that. And that's the tournament that starts during the NHL playoffs. And that as teams are getting eliminated, players join their countries throughout the tournament. It's a weird way they do it. And of course, last year, I believe Joel Farabee was on Team USA. Connor Bedard was on Team Canada. So the Worlds will be in May. So that's the next IIHF men's tournament, which will come at the end of the season, which coincides with the NHL playoffs. And so some players don't join their countries until they're eliminated from the playoffs. Or, of course, if they're playing for teams that didn't make the playoffs, then they'll start it off from the get. But that's the next tournament for the IIHF. And, of course, we'll be covering that as well as we move into the spring. So a lot going on. And, again, the IIHF tournament is in full swing. And Team USA has a legitimate shot at winning gold and going back-to-back. They've never done that before, by the way. They've never won back-to-back World Juniors. So looking forward to seeing how they do with that. Let's now wrap things up on the baseball side of things, folks, because I've been delinquent on updating you on where we stand on baseball in terms of the hot stove. And we do have some things to talk about. The Phillies did make a move yesterday, a very minor level move. Tyler Gilbert was traded to the Chicago White Sox for Aaron Combs, who I believe pitched in the College World Series this year. Whatever. Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. He's a low-level minor leaguer. Maybe he pans out in a few years, whatever. But the Phillies made a very minor move as Gilbert was moved. But let's kind of go back over some of the more fun moves that were over the last few. We'll start with the moves on Christmas Eve. Mickey Gasper, the catcher, went from Boston to Minnesota. He was traded for Giovanni Moran. Gleyber Torres of the Yankees is now a Tiger to a 1-year contract. That's an interesting move that he left the Yankees for Detroit. I wouldn't mind him. He's a utility guy. He's a second baseman by trade, but can play third, and he can play shortstop. Sean Manaea, of course, staying with the Mets on a 3-year deal. Walker Buehler going from the Dodgers to the Red Sox on a 1-year deal. That's pretty significant for the Dodgers pitching staff. Matt Mervis, the first baseman from the Cubs, is now a Marlin. Was traded with cash considerations for Vidal Brujan, and Jacques Peterson going from Arizona to Texas on a 2-year contract. So he settles in Texas. Paul Goldschmidt, of course, went from Seattle to the Yankees on a 1-year deal. That was a pretty big we talked about that a little bit. And then Corbin Burns, the 6-year deal from Baltimore to Arizona, going back to the Diamondbacks. Does that upset the power balance in the NL West? I doubt it. But does that upset the power balance in the NL? Does that affect the Phillies in some way? It may. Caleb Thieber from Minnesota to Chicago, the Cubs on a 1-year deal. Nick Gordon, the outfielder from Miami, is now an Oriole on a minor league deal. Tyler Gilbert from the Phillies traded to the White Sox for Aaron Combs. Grant Anderson, the right-hand pitcher, going from Texas to Milwaukee, was traded for Mason Milani. And Caleb Boski, the right-hand pitcher, goes from Minnesota to Texas with a minor league contract and an invitation to spring training. So for those of you still looking out there on the big board free agency, there's really only a couple left, and that would be Anthony Santander, Pete Alonso, and Alex Bregman still out there unsigned. Do the Phillies make a move on any of those? Oh, and Jack Flattery's also unsigned. I forgot about him. Jack Flattery's unsigned. Tanner Scott's still unsigned, and that's the end there. So, are the Phillies in play for any of those guys? And more, and more specifically, are they in play for Anthony Santander or Alex Bregman? I would imagine if they're going to make a splash, it would be with Santander. But why in the hell would we bring another right fielder here, unless we're trading somebody? And maybe that's what we have to wait and see if they make a move at all. Do they go after Jack Flattery as a starter? It was 13-7 last year, 3.17 ERA. 194 strikeouts. He's got some gas in the tank. Play for the Dodgers. Would not mind him here. Pete Alonso, I already said where I stand on that. We lost out on Soto. Bring Pete Alonso here. Send Harper's ass to right field. I have no issues with Harper going back to the outfield for Pete Alonso. None. And I would take Pete Alonso in a heartbeat because it would rectify or make right the screw up of the 2016 draft where we took Moniak, where we should have taken Alonso. So I'd be okay with that. Santander, again, I don't have another spot for an outfielder. So are the Phillies in play for any of the remaining big names? And I guess we'll wait and see. But as every passing day goes by, it kind of seems like they're not. So we'll wait and see. But there you go. There's your hot stove update. And 42 days till pitchers and catchers report. Tigers are up and coming. Yeah, they were the great story last year. They made that end of first half into the second half push, Barbara, into the playoffs last year. They are an up and coming team, and out of nowhere. And Josh Bell went back to the Nationals. Strange. I didn't see that. Did that happen today? Yeah, Josh Bell back to the Nationals. Wow. Interesting. All right. Now, Barbara providing some of the latest in that hot stove. Thank you, Barbara. Contributing member to the It's a Wrap Sports Network, Barbara. And there you go. All right. Oh man, let's head over to our of the night segment as we're getting late in the night. As let's dot all the T's and cross all the I's. And here we go with your of the night segment. Of course, you already know what this is. All right, this is the other night segment. This is the part of the show where we talk about either a Flyers prospect, a Phillies prospect, a spotlighted player from the Phillies or Flyers, MLB draft target or NHL draft target. We introduce you to them. We get you to know them, and we just talk about them a little bit. Last night we spread our net out a little bit. We went into the world of the NHL. We talked about James Haggins. We did our first NHL draft target of the season. We are now going to incorporate them in, and also start incorporating in Phillies. Not prospects, but spotlight players from the Phillies and stuff like that, as we now kind of have to broaden our scope because we're moving into the baseball season. That's right. I said it, man. It's January. There's about 10 feet of snow outside, but we're getting close to baseball, and I can feel it. So we're going to start talking about baseball, but not tonight, because on the other night segment, we are going back to the Flyers and back to the Flyers prospects, kind of. And tonight's of the night segment player is Louis Belpedo. Now, he goes on those lines of, do we still talk about a player drafted in the third round of the 2014 draft as a prospect? We had some problems the other night talking about Adam Ginning, who was drafted in the second round of the 2018 draft as a prospect. And I don't know if Belpedo pushes that limit beyond its breaking point, and he probably does. Belpedo's had his time in the NHL. He's sniffed it with a couple different teams. Just can't seem to stick. And I probably a lot to do with his 5'11" and 196-pound frame, but he is a right-handed defenseman. He provides that unicorn type of defense, which is that right-handed side. Very good puck-moving defenseman. He's offensively plus size and a huge motor. Need to always work with that extra mile to be noticed. A bottom pairing D-man at the next level. And he has had that opportunity, and he is he used to be the eighth man or the first man off the bench for the Flyers, so to speak. Kind of fell back a little bit with the emergence of Igor Zamula and Emil Andre and the likes of those guys as they kind of move up through the reins, and he's kind of getting left behind. He was drafted by Minnesota back in 2014. As I said, bounced around to a few different franchises. I know he's been with Minnesota, he's been with Montreal, and of course he's been with the Flyers. He's a staple in the Phantoms over the last 3 years. He wears the A for them. He is I guess, as I said, are we at a point with him to really kind of call him more of a fringe NHLer and a staple AHLer instead of calling him a prospect? We probably are, but for respect's sake, out of a guy who's scraped and clawed his way through his career, I give him the prospect nod. But Louis Belpedo tonight is your Flyer prospect, the right-handed defenseman for the Phantoms. And there you go. That's our of the night segment. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed creating that. When I checked the National Hockey Games, sorry about that, Barbara. What am I doing here? I feel like dancing when I hear that music. Oh my God, 2014. Yeah, I hear you, Barbara. As I said, I don't know if you can classify him as a prospect anymore when you're drafted in the 2014 draft. But out of respect to his career, I'm going to give him prospect status because you gotta have respect for a player. And I personally know a few of those guys, guys that were drafted maybe in the second or third round back in like the mid 2000 teens, and that are still in the league, but they're in the AHL, and they know they're not going any further than that. But every year they get the contract, and every year they're making their $975,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? And they have another year where they can play hockey and do what they love. And it's not a bad way to live. It really isn't. As I said, I personally know a few of those guys, and they're at peace with it. Obviously, everybody wants to play in the NHL. Obviously, everybody wants to be Wayne Gretzky. But sometimes when you're in a league or you're trying to get into a league that features the 1% of the 1%, you're just not good enough. And settling in the AHL, which for all my money is the second best league in the world, it's better than the KHL. This is okay. It honestly is. So Louis Belpedo is probably one of those kinds of cats. But yeah. All right, let's now go to my favorite segment of the night.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
All righty, that's the music to the card review segment. MattyB's card review. My favorite time of the night is when I take a card from my vast sports card collection, and we do kind of the same thing we did with the of the night segment. We just kind of talk about the player, we introduce you to him, talk about some nostalgia that might be involved with this player when I pulled the card, talk about some financial value that might be involved in this card, and talk about just some stuff that might have just elicited some good memories for me when it comes to these cards. And yeah, I enjoy doing this. We've been doing this now for about 2 months, and we're going to keep doing it until I get through all of my baseball cards, or I shouldn't say baseball, sports cards, because it goes beyond baseball. And that should be about, 17, 18, 19 years from now. So hopefully I have all my faculties left when we get to the last card, but we're nowhere near the last card, but we are actually having some fun with it. So let's get into our card of the night tonight. It is a 1990s baseball card. Yep, we're staying on baseball, but we're going into 1990. We're moving off of the 87 tops, taking a break from that for a little bit, as we were going heavy 87 tops there for a while, but we're on to 1990 to Dunruss. Now, one of the cool things about Dunruss around the 1990 season, I don't know if that was their first year. It might have been their first year, or 88 might have been. Well, that was one of the first years. Let's call it one of the first years. They introduced the Diamond Kings cards, which was the artist renditions of certain players they would highlight as Diamond Kings. And it was just a parallel or an insert into their set, an added thing. And over the years, those cards have really been the players that those cards focused on. Some of those guys are in the Hall of Fame now. And tonight is one of those cards and one of those guys who's underappreciated. I ain't gonna lie. This guy, for what he was, and again, it might have been because of the era he played in and the teams he played on, but I think he goes underappreciated. So let's hit tonight's card. It's the 90 Dunruss Diamond King version of Roberto Alomar, the Hall of Fame second baseman who came up with the San Diego Padres, and then pretty much, I guess, the big thing or the big notoriety of Roberto's career was the incident he had back in '97 when he was a member of the Orioles with Hirschbecker, the the umpire when some things were said, spit on the umpire because he said something about his kids. And it was just a real bad situation, but they squashed it. But Roberto Alomar, for my dime, and I've had this conversation on this program when it comes to the position of second base. And I really believe truly that Chase Utley, when you talk about the history of second baseman, and I'm not Homer in this because I'm not Homer, but I think if you look at throughout history and second baseman, it's Roberto Alomar and Chase Utley for me. And I don't even put Ryan Sandberg up there. I put Ryan Sandberg below Chase Utley when it comes to the history of second baseman. But Roberto Alomar, for what he did in a very, his career wasn't what you would call long lasting. I mean, he lasted a little bit. His first game was in April of '88, and his last game was in '04. So he hung around, played for the Padres, Blue Jays, Orioles, Indians, Mets, White Sox, Diamondbacks, and then the White Sox again at the end of his career. But notably, of course, it was his time with San Diego, his time with Toronto, and his time with Baltimore, and to a lesser extent, his time back in Cleveland with his brother. That was really what he's noted for. He was a 12-time All-Star, a 2-time World Series champion, 10-time Gold Glove Award winner, 4-time Silver Slugger. He was the ALCS MVP in '92, and he was elected to both the Baltimore Orioles Hall of Fame and, of course, the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2011. So he goes underappreciated for, again, the era he played in and where he played. Obviously, if he would have played in Philadelphia or New York in the early part of his career, people would have taken more notice of him. He spent 2 seasons with the Mets in '02 and '03. But to my dime, he's up there with Chase Utley. I would probably have to give it to Alomar based on duration of career. Utley's career was cut short. We already know that by injury. So I'd probably have to give the best second baseman honor to Roberto Alomar. And this card was his Diamond King card in 1990 with Dunross when he was a Padre. This card is absolutely worthless. I don't want to sit here and lie to you. It's about $2. But if you're lucky enough to have this card in an error card, there's an error card out there that on the back of the card on the bottom where it says 1990 Leaf Incorporated, after the Incorporated, the period is missing. And if you happen to have that card, and that card is significantly worth more than this card that I have. And I'm going to show you the card I have. I don't have the error card. I have just the standard card. But the error card, I've seen it go for $100. This version, the clean version, yeah, it's about $2. So you're not ruling the world with Roberto Alomar. And it's a shame as a Hall of Fame player. But here it is. Here's the Roberto Alomar Dunross Diamonds King card that I have. And on the back here, I don't know if you can see it, but down there on the bottom, right there on the small print, it says Incorporated. And if you happen to have the card that has the Incorporated without the period, then you might have yourself about $100 card. But I don't have that. I have this one, and it's about $2. But again, it's a nostalgic card. It's a Hall of Famer, and it's a good card. And it's again, I love what they did with Diamond Kings. I've always loved what they did with it. They should bring it back, honestly, but I don't know if they will. But there you go. There's my card review of the night, Roberto Alomar of the Padres and among other teams in there. So Barbara says that's real dedication, still playing in the minors. It's not bad money, like you said. No, it's not, Barbara. If you I mean, the lowest you can be paid in the minors is $775,000 a year. That's still, I'll take that to play hockey. When I say the minors, I mean the AHL. If you have a pro contract, the lowest you can get is $775,000 a year. Some players are down there playing for contracts over $1 million. Some players are, but most of them are playing between $775,000 and $975,000. I'll take either one of those. Yep, the Flyers are blocked off on ESPN Plus. I think it's because I'm a Philly area. I don't know. It always happens when they're not on TV. It says it's on NBC. So that's what I'm hoping it's on. That's where I'm watching them. I'm not watching them on ESPN. I'm watching on NBC. So they better be on. Sal, you better find the game, goddammit. But anyway, listen, that's going to take us to the end. A spirited show tonight. College football playoff was our number one driving topic. Penn State moving on to the semis against the hated Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, and Texas will battle Ohio State in the other semifinal next week. We have a potential opportunity here for a Penn State-Ohio State national championship game in a couple weeks. Eagles, let Saquon play. Let him play. Let him get the record and move on from there. Other than that, there is absolutely nothing to this game. There's no interest in this game. It's a preseason game for all it's cracked up to be. Let's get through it and get into the playoffs against either the Commanders or the Packers. And that's not really the biggest story in the NFL. Is where is Detroit and Minnesota going to fall? Don't forget, we have two divisions up for grabs this weekend. The NFC South and the NFC North still have that's what. So are you kidding me? I didn't even think of that. I just assumed they were going to be on. Ooh. Sal, you better figure out where to find the game. I don't know where I'm going to watch the game. But two divisions still hanging the balance in the NFC, the East or the North and the South. And then also that number 1, number 5, and number 3 seed are still, or 4 seed are still hanging in the balance as well. And over in the AFC, that 7 seed is still up for grabs between Cincinnati, Miami, and Denver. So there is still some things to play for some teams around the NFL this weekend as we wrap up the season. And Black Monday is upon us on Monday. Who goes and who stays? We'll await to see that. But other than that, the Eagles, Hockey, Flyers, Knights tonight, as me and Barbara are discussing. Hopefully you can find a place to watch the game. But we will be here at immediately following the game for the post game with Sal on Clear the Ice. WJC, Team USA is on its way to the semifinals. They will wait, I believe, the winner of Latvia and Canada tomorrow. And yeah, we did some hot stove updates. We did our of the night segment. Louis Belpito was your Flyers prospect of the night, and our card review segment, Roberto Alomar, the Hall of Fame second baseman, who might have Chase Utley by a hair for the best second baseman of all time. I'll give him that. I'll concede that. Other than that, listen, it was a blast. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, everybody who contributed tonight. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the network on all of our social media platforms. I won't be back until Sunday night, or actually I won't be back till Monday with the final word, as I have post-game duties on Sunday. But we will be around here all weekend as we got you covered for the Eagles post-game and Flyers post-game, both on Sunday. So you guys have yourselves a great rest of your night and a even better tomorrow and a fabulous weekend. We'll catch up with you on Sunday. Until then, take care.
I'll be coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I show so. Everybody know I'm on. You know when the click through. Then it's supposed to be a show.